सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां साधना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्त।
हरे कृष्ण प्रेमसिंधु गौरांग प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण
प्रभु जी। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. We welcome all of you for the today's morning program, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace, Premasindhu Gauranga Prabhu, and Prabhu will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 4th chapter, and the text 2. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण हरे हरे कृष्ण। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So I welcome all devotees for today's Bhagavatam class. We are studying 5th canto. So in this particular verse, the chapter is the forest of material enjoyment. And here Shukadeva Goswami is narrating this. So let us read this verse first. 5.14.2. So this verse is not in a particular meter. So we are going to read it as a text. यस्याम उहवा एते षड इंद्रिय नाम्नः कर्मणा दास्यव एवते तद्यथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किंचित् धर्मोपयीकं बहुकृच्छ्राधिगतं साक्षात् परम पुरुषाराधन लक्षणो योऽसौ धर्मस्तं तु सांपराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्म्यं धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवणा स्वादान वघ्राण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्राम्योपभोगेन पुनाथस्य जितात्मनो यथा सार्थस्य विलुम्पन्ति. So the description is coming here about how the different senses are plundering the wealth, taking away the attention from the real wealth, that is the goal of life, that is attaining bhakti or attaining Krishna. So, in the previous verse, it was spoken about how the role of Guru is very important. That was the theme of previous verse. And again, in the later portion of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the senses. So here, the translation, it goes like this. In the forest of material existence, the uncontrolled senses are like plunderers. The conditioned soul may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. But unfortunately, the controlled senses plunder his money through sense gratification. The senses are plunderers because they make one spend his money unnecessarily for seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, desiring, and willing. In this way, the conditioned soul is obliged to gratify his senses, and thus all his money is spent. This money is actually acquired for the execution of religious principles, but it is taken away by the plundering senses. So, in the forest of material enjoyment, we read about this forest of material enjoyment in Bhagavad Gita also, when Krishna says, Krishna speaks about the upside down banyan tree. That is also the forest, the branches, the leaves, the different parts of that banyan tree. That is also like the forest of material enjoyment. And when the soul is roaming around in this forest, the senses, they are like thieves. So when the soul is there in this material forest, he gets certain facilities. These facilities are given by the Supreme Lord so that the soul can ultimately get out of the forest of material enjoyment. But unfortunately, he uses all those facilities which are given to him for material sense gratification. So now, uh, for a sadhaka or for anybody who is trapped in this material world, the biggest problem is uh, getting out of material enjoyment or the desire of material enjoyment. That is a very big challenge. So we are all caught up in this material entanglement, and we have to read so much philosophy to cut our avidya, ignorance, and come out of that ignorance, that tendency to enjoy materially. So here also the chapter is speaking about the forest of material enjoyment, that how this enjoying tendency, it stops us from reaching our ultimate goal of life, that is Krishna Prem. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about, let us read the purport. Prabhupada is speaking about again the same principle, that how the uncontrolled senses are causing us trouble. So we will read this purport here. And then after reading the purport, we will discuss the root cause of all the troubles in this particular context. That is the urge to enjoy materially, or the drive for material enjoyment. That is the root cause of the problem. So, from where this urge of material enjoyment comes, whether that urge for material enjoyment is it inherent in the soul, or is it coming from somewhere else, and how to understand that we are being fooled by this urge, by this drive. So we'll understand it very scientifically through the Shat Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. So let us read this purport first. So Prabhupada says, Purva Janmarjita Vidya, Purva Janmarjitam Dhanam, Agre Dhavati Dhavati, which means that your prarabdha is always with you. Whatever you have earned in previous lives, you are going to get it. By following the principles of Varnashram Dharma, one attains a better position in the material world. One may be rich, learned, beautiful, or high-born. One who has all these assets should know that they are all meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, when a person is misguided, he misuses his high position for sense gratification. Therefore, the uncontrolled senses are considered plunderers. The good position one attains by executing religious principles is wasted as the plundering senses take it away. By executing religious principles under the laws of Varnashram Dharma, one is placed in a comfortable position. So we see in this world there are so many rich, learned, beautiful, high-born people, and they have so much wonderful facilities. But instead of using it for advancement of spiritual life, they use it for material enjoyment. This is what Prabhupada is writing here. Further, Prabhupada says, one may very easily use his assets for further advancement of Krishna consciousness. One should understand that the wealth and opportunity one gets in the material world should not be squandered in sense gratification. They are meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore teaching people to control the mind and five knowledge acquiring senses by a definite process. One should practice a little austerity and not spend money on anything other than the regulative life of devotional service. So here Prabhupada gives the solution. He says that Krishna consciousness movement is there and it is teaching people how to get out of this vicious circle of squandering one's assets in terms of their prarabdha. So they can spend their assets, their prarabdha, for progressing in devotional service. Prabhupada says further, the senses demand that one see beautiful things. Therefore, money should be spent for decorating the deity in the temple. Similarly, the tongue has to taste good food, uh, which should be bought and offered to the deity. The nose can be utilized in smelling the flowers offered to the deity. And hearing can be utilized by listening to the vibration of Hare Krishna mantra. So all the senses can be utilized, but in a Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious manner. In this way, the senses can be regulated and utilized to advance Krishna consciousness. Thus, a good position might not be spoiled by material sense gratification in the form of illicit sex, meat, eating, intoxication, and gambling. One spoils an opulent position in the material world by driving cars, spending time in nightclubs, or tasting abominable food in restaurants. In these ways, the plundering senses take away all the assets that the conditioned soul has acquired with great difficulty. So, Prabhupada writes here that the senses, they are plunderers, and they are taking away this wonderful assets which are given to us in the form of prarabdha to advance in Krishna consciousness. So the main problem seems here that we are so much addicted to sense gratification. Different people might be attracted to different types of sense gratification, but everybody is attracted to sense gratification. Some people like it in sattva guna, some people like in raja guna, some in tamo guna, and there are so many other combinations of these three also. But everybody is stuck up in some kind of sense gratification, whether they are devotees or non-devotees. So the devotees, sadhakas, or even the non-devotees, how, why it is so that they are stuck up in this vicious cycle? From where does this urge for sense gratification is coming from? Let us examine that. And by understanding this process very scientifically, that what is the source of this urge for happiness or material happiness. So when I say happiness, we'll say material happiness. So this urge for material happiness, this is the root cause of the problem, it seems, in this particular context. So let us see that from where this is coming and how to understand it, what should be done. So every living being, not just human beings, but all the living entities, they have this urge for acquiring material happiness. And it is very natural from the time of birth. We see that. It is not something which is acquired by training. No, it is already there. So whether someone is learned, illiterate, cultured, uncultured, poor, rich, theist, atheist, everybody wants this, wants to acquire material happiness, unless one is a pure devotee and renounced. So the non-humans, like birds, trees, animals, aquatics, insects, they also avoid pain, and they also want a comfortable environment, just like human beings. So they may not make big plans for enjoyment, but certainly they avoid misery by all possible means. So even plants, they have the intelligence to avoid obstruction to their growth. They'll grow. If there is obstruction, they'll grow from another direction. So based on our experience, we can hypothesize that the drive for happiness is inherent. The urge for acquiring material happiness is inherent in the jiva. But let us examine if this hypothesis is supported by the Shastras. So, in the Paramatma Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami does an exhaustive analysis of the Swarupa of the Jiva. And there he is quoting one particular section from Padma Puran. And in these verses of Padma Puran, which speaks about the Swarupa of the Jiva, that is the original constitutional nature of the Jiva, there are about 21 characteristics of the Jiva which are mentioned. And Jiva Goswami elaborates on each of them. So we'll not go into that verse and all those qualities. But in those 21 characteristics of Jiva, which are inherent to him, there is no mention of the urge for enjoyment. So, in this list, this urge for enjoyment does not come. So, it does not come in the entire analysis of the intrinsic nature of the jiva. So, then how can we account for the constant desire and endeavor to be happy, which we all experience? The constant desire to be happy, comfortable. How can we account for that if it is not the basic nature of the jiva, or not one of the characteristics of the jiva? So it is certainly not something that we have acquired, because as we discussed, even animals and birds, they also have it. So the answer to this is found in one of the 21 characteristics which Jiva Goswami analyzes. It is called as Chid Ananda Atmaka. One of the characteristics of the Jiva, eternal characteristics, is Chid Ananda Atmaka. So the Jiva is Chid Ananda Atmaka, which means intrinsically he has the nature of Chid, consciousness, and Ananda, bliss. So Chid Ananda Atmaka, Chidananda Atmaka. So the Jiva is by nature conscious and he has bliss. So this sounds a little confusing because it is not our experience. Our experience is that we are searching for happiness outside. That is why all this discussion is there in fifth canto, in this chapter. So if the jiva by nature is Chid Ananda, that it is full of Ananda, consciousness, then the jiva should not have a need to search for happiness outside. If the swarupa of the jiva is Chid Ananda, then why the jiva should search for an experience of happiness outside? Why should he have a constant drive for bliss or happiness? So it is just like a person, if a person is desperately looking for food after being stuffed, after he has, eaten his favorite meal, it is absurd like that. So if you have eaten your favorite meal, then you are satisfied. Even after that, if a person is desperately searching for food, it does not make any sense. Similar thing is there with us. The jiva by itself is Chidananda Atmaka. The Ananda is already there in the jiva. But he's acting like a person who has just had his favorite meal. That is, the Ananda is already inside. The satisfaction is there. And now he is desperately searching for food again. You know. So our experience in this world of looking for happiness, material happiness, it is like that. This person who has just had his favorite meal and is stuffed himself completely, and now he's again looking for food. So if the jiva intrinsically is blissful, Chidananda Atmaka, then why the jiva should search for happiness outside? So Jiva Goswami explains that Chidananda Atmaka, as we explained, that the jiva is chit, that is, he is conscious, intrinsically conscious. And Ananda means he is devoid of any misery. So Jiva Goswami explains that being devoid of misery is also one type of Ananda. You know, especially when we are speaking about material Ananda. So that kind of Ananda is basically being devoid of misery. Prabhupada also speaks about this many times, that Material ananda is not real ananda, because it is basically ananda of being devoid of misery, which is also a type of ananda or pleasure, happiness. So Jiva Goswami says that there are different types of happiness. There is type of happiness in this material world of enjoying material things. We are speaking about material drive for happiness here in fifth canto. It is called as Martyananda. Martyananda means the happiness which is available in this world of death, Martya Loka. So Martyananda. That Ananda is basically freedom from misery. Then there is different another type of happiness, Brahmananda, that is experiencing the Brahman, qualityless absolute truth. Then there is Premananda, that is the happiness of bhakti. So we are speaking here in fifth canto about Martyananda, that is the happiness through material senses. So most of the happiness that we experience is nothing but the cessation of suffering or discomfort. So when we have discomfort, we feel happy when that discomfort is removed. And almost all the happiness that we experience in our material lives is preceded by discomfort. So we enjoy food because we feel the discomfort of hunger. If we suffer from heat, we enjoy a cool place. When desire is fulfilled, we feel happy, not because the object of the desire gave us happiness, but because the disturbance caused by the desire in our mind, it disappeared. So it is not that the object of the desire gives us happiness, because of which all the whole world is running around here, there, everywhere. But because the disturbance caused by the desire in the mind, it has disappeared. So for some time, it seems that happiness has come. So because of focusing on the object of our desire, we mistakenly think that the object of enjoyment is the source of our happiness. So if the object of desire is the source of our happiness, then we should always remain happy if we get that object, isn't it? Once you get that object, you should always remain happy. But that is not the case. Can someone give an example that how even after getting the object of your desire, you will not remain happy? Any example can you give? Yes,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
yes,
Prabhuji, this aspect of wanting to buy a car, as an example, where the mind is so much disturbed with that when actually after they buy it, the car is not giving happiness because there are other things associated with it. But then it
correct,
is
yes,
the what you said now, the misery is gone of not having one.
correct, yes. So we have all experienced this, that the very object, the very position, the very action which we are hankering for, it does not give us the same amount of happiness which it gave when we first achieved it, like a new phone. So when you get it for a few days, you keep it very nicely. No scratch should come. And after some time, no one cares. So the level of happiness that it gives diminishes over time, and after some time, it may not give any happiness at all. Rather, it might become a source of trouble or discomfort. So that's why Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 5.22, Yehi sansparsha jab hoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So Krishna says that an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. यही संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःख योनय एवते. So the material objects which give pleasure when they come in contact with material senses, they are dukkha yoni. They are the origin of dukkha. So here we are discussing that the nature of the Atma is Chidananda Atmana. So it has Ananda, which means it does not have Dukkha. So our Swarupa, our original constitutional position, in our original constitutional position, there is neither misery, Dukkha, neither there is a drive to attain material happiness. Okay. In our original Swarupa, whatever it is, the in one sense the Swarupa is that everybody is servant of Krishna. At next level, when we become pure, then we exactly understand the finer details of that Swarupa, that what is our relation with Krishna in which rasa. So even that is not achieved right now. At least we know that our Swarupa is to serve Krishna. And in that serving of Krishna, we service of Krishna, we get happiness. So in this Swarupa, neither there is dukkha, misery, nor there is a drive to attain happiness. Because as discussed earlier, the jiva, its nature is that the happiness is already inherent there. So the spiritual happiness is already inherent in the Swarupa. It is not that you have to acquire it. Once the Swarupa is known, that happiness is also manifested. So in the Swarupa, the spiritual happiness is inherent, and material happiness or the drive for material happiness is not there. So the drive for material happiness is basically a material thought, a material feeling, a material emotion in our mind, which is not intrinsic to the jiva. It is manifesting when we are connected to the mind. So the Shastras, they say that this inherent drive for happiness or material happiness is not the original, it is not inherent to the jiva. So the jiva does not have any drive for happiness. So one just has to realize his swarupa and the happiness will manifest because it is intrinsic. The happiness is already there in the jiva, but now he is searching for it outside. So the drive for happiness comes only when we identify with the material mind body complex. And we are not situated in our own Swarupa. So when we are not situated in our own Swarupa, that is servant of Krishna, it creates a disturbance. It creates a state of disturbance because the Ananda is not there. The Ananda which is inherent in the soul, you cannot tap it. And so this drive is created to search for Ananda outside. So this drive creates a disturbance in the mind, in the intelligence. And when temporarily we get something material, then the drive is subsided, but for a temporary period, not for permanent. So this drive emerges in us to dispel this sense of disturbance. The drive for material happiness, which makes the world do so many crazy things, and which is the cause of trouble, which is being discussed in this section of Bhagavatam. It is basically coming out to dispel the sense of disturbance. The disturbance because we are not satisfied. So this drive is mistakenly understood to be rooted in the jiva, but it is not. So now, what is the fact? What is actually happening? The fact is that we have the drive to be situated in our Swarupa. This is the actual thing which is happening with us. The drive for material happiness is actually the drive which we have to be situated in our own Swarupa, to tap the Ananda which is there in our Swarupa inherently. But because we don't know about our Swarupa, we don't know about spiritual life, we don't know how to tap into that inherent happiness. And that's why we are having this drive for Martyananda or external happiness, material happiness. But actually, the drive is for being situated in our own Swarup. So everybody is looking for Krishna unknowingly. So our Swarupa is devoid of misery, dukkha, and thus we strive to remove misery. So what is happening to us in our conditioned state? In the conditioned state, we identify with the mind, body, subtle body, and we think that this is our Swarupa. So I am born in a male body. I have some particular age, particular situation in this world. So the we think that this is our Swarupa, but this is an illusion. So our body and mind are always in a state of flux, and we are trying to keep ourselves balanced. We are trying to remain balanced from mental disturbances, physical disturbances, but we are not able to achieve that balance. And that is why this unending drive for happiness is there. We feel that something is missing in us. And therefore, we think that if we can acquire that something which is missing, then we'll be happy. Then you acquire that thing. But then again, you feel that, okay, that other thing is missing now. Then you again work hard, you acquire that thing. Then you feel, okay, that now that third thing is missing now. In this way, the drive for external happiness always creates disturbance in our mind body complex. So, this is a natural drive which everybody has. So, self realized people do not experience this drive for happiness because they do not identify with their mind body complex. Krishna tells about this in 6th chapter. So, after the class or whenever you have time, you can read 6.23. You know, so there are two, three verses together 20, 21, 22, 23, like that. So you can read that, those four verses and purport. Where Prabhupada speaks that in 23, that is the second last verse there, you know, in those group of 4 or 5 verses, it says that tam vidyad dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam. That is the state which is devoid of any contact with dukkha, pain. It is called as yoga. So we already know that Jiva Goswami says that the inherent nature of Jiva is free from any dukkha because it has ananda. And also Srimad Bhagavatam second canto it says 2.10.6 Muktir hitva nyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. So the real mukti liberation is attaining one's swarupa. So another interesting perspective of what is happening with us. Understanding this perspective can help us to get out of this false understanding of our drive for material happiness, which is actually the drive for being situated in our soul. So, if the drive for material happiness is dovetailed into the drive of being situated in our Sarupa, only then the drive will stop. Only then real satisfaction will be achieved. So, another interesting perspective of what is happening with us. In this material world, we love everything that we think is ours, isn't it? The body is ours. The things which are related to the body, they are ours. The objects which are related to us, they are ours. The people which are related to us, ours. So we love them more. We love them more because we consider those objects, peoples, things, etc., to be ours. When we stop considering things, persons, thing, or objects to be ours, we become indifferent to them, isn't it? It happens with us sometimes. You get some object because it is yours, you love it. Now the object is lost or you give it to someone else, you become indifferent to it. So try to understand what is happening here. We are loving everything which we think is ours, which is connected to us. And once we understand that it no more belongs to us, we become indifferent, isn't it? So basically, we are enjoying the material objects only as long as we consider them ours. So what is happening here? Jiva Goswami says that we are putting ourselves into that object and deriving pleasure from it. Because, as we discussed earlier, only if we think that the object is yours or that person is yours, then you derive pleasure from it. Otherwise, you become indifferent. So, what is the actual source of pleasure there? The actual source of pleasure is not the person or the object or uh, anything else. But the source of pleasure is that you're putting yourself in that object and deriving pleasure from it. You're associating yourself with that object or person and deriving pleasure from it. So the real pleasure is not in that object or person, but the real pleasure is in you, yourself, isn't it? So we are putting ourselves in something and we are deriving pleasure from it. Okay, Prabhu gave the example of car. So the car is mine, so I'm deriving pleasure from it because I have put myself in that object. Once the car is sold, then I become indifferent. Then I don't want to be bothered anymore about that car, the tax, whatever. I want to get rid of it because I have disassociated from that. So truly, we are relishing ourselves in external objects. We are relishing ourselves in relationships. We are relishing ourselves in positions. So basically, we are trying to relish our own Swarupa. So we are trying to relish our own Swarupa, but we don't know how to tap into it. And so our mind and body is confused. And so this drive for searching for external happiness is arising, which will make us more and more confused and unsatisfied, dissatisfied. So basically, we are trying to relish our own Swarupa, but we are not finding it. Just like the musk deer, he has the beautiful fragrance inside his own body and is trying to search where is it? He's roaming around here and there and everywhere. Does not know that actually the real pleasure is inherent to him. It is the very nature of the jiva, chid ananda atmaka. The pleasure is in the atma himself. He does not know how to tap it. So basically, all this forest of material enjoyment and the jiva roaming around here and there in search of the material enjoyment is nothing but we are trying to relish our own swarupa and not finding it. And thus, the mind is thinking that, okay, start, let's go on a drive to search for happiness outside. But that happiness is never going to be achieved. That satisfaction is never going to be achieved. So it is basically it is the drive to situate in our own Swarupa, which is misunderstood as the drive for Martyananda or material happiness. So, this is the secret of understanding that from where this drive for mad material enjoyment is coming from, and actually how it should be dovetailed into spiritual life. So, once this science is understood, first you have to, first, if the problem is there, you have to search for a solution. If the disease is there, first it has to be diagnosed that what is the cause of the disease. So here we have analytically uh, deciphered that what is the cause of the disease. So the disease is the drive for external enjoyment, roaming around in the forest of material enjoyment. The root cause is that we are searching for our Swarupa, and in the Swarupa, the enjoyment is inherent. So now, once the disease is understood, diagnosed, and we know how to dovetail it in spiritual way. Now, different exercises can be formed. That whenever that drive for external material enjoyment comes in the mind, how to direct the mind to the original understanding that what is happening with me and how can I get out of that, and what are the different activities and exercises which will help me to come out of from that and dovetail it into uh, a spiritual drive instead of material drive. So this is how spiritual life works. First you understand the problem, analyze it properly from the shastra, then you create exercises. Exercises is basically sadhana bhakti, sadhan bhakti. So the acharyas have already given the different aspects of sadhan bhakti, what you are supposed to do. By doing those exercises or those sadhana, then one is able to situate oneself in proper understanding. And then one can get out of the forest of material enjoyment. So we stop here. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for very detailing, analytically, scientifically analyzing this verse today. And from the Jiva Goswami's, like how you mentioned, even though it's not part of the one of the 21 inherent qualities, but how this is coming. And also you mentioned it's not the object that is giving the happiness. It is the when we put ourselves in that object, then it is giving the happiness. That means that the pleasure is coming from within. So, but still, like we are not able to find that swarupa. That is why, like we are completely uh, behind all this material so-called enjoyment things. And then you mentioned about different types of ananda, like Madhyananda, Brahmananda, Premananda, and all these things. And also you mentioned about uh, all the happiness that we are experiencing in this world is the kind of a sensation of the miseries or uncomfort. So if the object of our desire is the sense of is the source of happiness, then why are we not happy? That is because and also that the happiness keeps diminishing because it's not the object that is giving the happiness. And then you mentioned our swarupa. Our swarupa is neither miseries uh, and also we don't have desire for the material happiness, but we are always inherent uh, blissful. And if the drive for sorry, the drive for the mental happiness is the mental desire. So this will come only when we identify ourselves with the body and mind. So this is creating the state of disturbance, and then we are constantly disturbed because we are not satisfied. So then, since we don't know how to tap our spiritual bliss, so we are looking for the Madhyananda. our body and mind are in a state of flux, which we always try to balance, but it's never getting balanced, and that's why we are always behind material enjoyment. And we think that we acquire whatever uh, is missing, but once we get it, then we think for other ones. So this is never-ending loop. You mentioned, and also then you mentioned real mukti is the attaining our own swarupa, and then we have to dovetail our desire for material happiness with the spiritual uh, swarupa, so that attaining our own swarupa, then only we'll be happy. So we like then you mentioned about the things like we love our own things and become indifferent to the others, and then our own things give us happiness because we put ourselves in that object of. So then we are deriving the pleasure. So from this, like you concluded, like very, I mean, analytically, like it gave me the very strong thing that conviction that okay, it's not the object, it is the our own inherent. When we put ourselves in that object, then only we derive the pleasure. So these are very one things to do. And also you mentioned how to detail. First, understand the problem, analyze it, exercise in the form of sadhana, and then we'll experience the bliss. Thank you, Prabhuji. Like leaving no more time for the question and answers. Hare Krishna.
This was a very important point in this class, that we derive pleasure by associating ourselves in that object. So basically, the happiness is in ourselves, and we are associating ourselves with that object. So the object is not giving pleasure. We are deriving pleasure in ourselves actually. But
Correct.
it's not true pleasure because we don't know how to tap into ourselves in our swarupa, which is the real pleasure. So that is why our attraction to the objects, people, different things in this world, it keeps on changing because those objects, those activities, they are not going to help us to tap into our swarupa. Another important point which I wanted to uh, make here very quickly, Jiva Goswami tells in this section that when we are in a drive for material happiness, when we have the urge for doing something to acquire more and more material happiness, as we were discussing, it does not create happiness, but rather it creates misery. So basically, what is misery in this world? Misery in this world is nothing but being unsatisfied with this drive, isn't it? And the drive creates so many different karmas and it gives dukkha. So now one might say that, oh, I am very unhappy, I am very miserable. So Krishna should become compassionate to me and give me bhakti. So there is also another analysis that does Krishna give bhakti because he sees that the jiva is miserable and unhappy? Or bhakti is the cause of bhakti? Is misery cause of bhakti or is bhakti the cause of bhakti? So Krishna is definitely very compassionate, but he does not give bhakti because of misery. He does not give bhakti because he sees that someone is suffering materially. He gives bhakti if some saints, sadhus give mercy to that person, or rather, in another sense, bhakti gives rise to bhakti. So, Jiva Goswami says that if Krishna is becoming compassionate to the suffering souls of this world, and as a result of that compassion, which is arising by seeing the suffering, material suffering, he is awarding bhakti. Let us say this is the hypothesis. Then, when Krishna comes in this world, it should happen that he removes the miseries of everybody, isn't it? But it is not happening. When Krishna comes, it is not that all the miseries of all the jivas are gone. Now, if all the miseries of all the jivas are not gone, it means two things. It means, first, either Krishna is not capable of removing misery of everybody, because everybody is miserable in this world. So if he is coming, he should give bhakti to everybody. and the misery will be removed. But it is not happening. So either Krishna is incapable of removing everybody's misery, that is the first option. Second option is that he gives bhakti not because of compassion arising by seeing misery, but rather he gives bhakti when he sees that there is some bhakti in the person. That is the second option. So Jiva Goswami says that the second option is the true option. That Krishna gives bhakti when he sees that there is some bhakti in the person. He does not give bhakti because he sees the suffering of the material suffering, which is caused by the drive for material enjoyment. Otherwise, everybody in the world should be happy. No more suffering when Krishna has come. But he's not doing that. So is it that he's incapable of doing it? Is he incapable of giving bhakti to everybody because they are suffering? No, he's capable. He can give, but he does not give. He gives bhakti to someone who wants to do bhakti, not because of material suffering. That is why uh, searching for our own swarupa or doing sadhana bhakti is very important. That way, we also attract the mercy of Krishna. So, Krishna's mercy we will not get if we are just suffering. That Krishna's mercy we'll get when we want to go back to Krishna, when we show interest in Krishna. And that is also another thing which I wanted to say. Okay. So, now any questions you can ask? Any questions, comments?
Devotees' lines are already unmuted. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu Hare Krishna. That was pronounced. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, when we were talking about the Chitananda of the soul,
Yeah.
how different it is compared to the Atmaram frame of mind, especially in the shlokas, where Atma Ramasya Munayo, that where how Prabhupada describes that.
Correct.
I mean, is there a difference? Is that at the mind level, or it could be at the mind level, or it's actually directly the Chidananda that you spoke of just now?
Yeah, that's what. So, very good question. So, Jiva Goswami basically tells here that what is this Ananda? Chidananda Swarupa, he says. So, this Ananda is basically absence of suffering. That type of Ananda the Jiva already has, that he is devoid of any suffering. So, he is not affected by any type of material suffering. So, that kind of Ananda is this Ananda, which is mentioned in this characteristic. Now, the Jiva has an option. He can go for Martyananda, he can go for Brahmananda, he can go for Premananda. So, that is the real Ananda. This is also Ananda, being devoid of suffering. That is there. So, that's why I told you that you read this 6.23 and the purport of that. So, there Prabhupada explains this very nicely. And he also takes help of Patanjali Yoga Sutras to explain that. So, Jiva Goswami also in this particular section, he is taking Patanjali Yoga Sutras to explain this concept. So we did not go deeply there in that concept of what is the absence of suffering and how actually it is one type of happiness. And this absence of suffering, this type of happiness, it leads to real yoga. That is explained by Krishna also in 6.23 and also Patanjali in Yoga Sutras. So this Ananda which we spoke about, which is inherent in the Jiva, is basically is devoid of all suffering, which is Ananda, which is type of happiness. Now here's an option of going and increasing that Ananda through bhakti, or he can merge in Brahman and get Brahmananda, or he can engage in material drive for happiness and he can get Martyananda, which is basically illusory happiness. So it's like that. So he has happiness, but that happiness is basically being devoid of any suffering. So now if the Jiva merges into Brahman, then he will get Brahmananda. If he becomes successful in understanding his own Swarupa in Vaikuntha world, he will get Premananda. And otherwise, he is happy with Martyananda. I mean, not happy, trying to be happy. So, like that. So, once he attains his Swarupa, then it is Premananda. If he attains Brahman, it is Brahmananda. Otherwise, also, at least he is free from any suffering, which is also a type of Ananda, which Patanjali also explains in Yoga Sutras. That when the Chitta Vritti, that is the disturbance in the mind of this drive for external happiness, it stops. It is Ananda. And that kind of Ananda, it leads to real yoga, advancement in yoga. Krishna also tells this in 6.23. So you read that 6.23 purport then by Prabhupada.
Yes, Prabhu, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavad Pranams.
Hare
Thanks for the very deep subject, Prabhu. This is a very deep, and for us, we have to listen to this recording repeatedly, Prabhu, then we can understand. But so very nicely explained, Prabhu. And regarding this Ananda, you were telling, Prabhu, can you just explain that Ananda, Prabhu? The different types you just now mentioned.
Yeah, so Ananda means one type of Ananda is being devoid of any suffering. Prabhupada says that if someone is being beaten, like in material world, we are always being beaten by the three modes of material nature. And now when temporarily it stops, then we feel very good. No more beating. So actually there is no positive aspect of Ananda there, but being free from any type of misery, that itself is pleasure. So that itself is one type of pleasure. Then another type of pleasure is material happiness, which is illusory because it is not going to give us happiness. So we understood scientifically that why it is not going to give us real happiness, and from where this drive for material happiness is originating. So it is originating from ourselves trying to search for the real Ananda, the limitless Ananda, which is there in our Swarupa. Swarupa means our constitutional position. Every soul has a constitutional position, a relationship with a form of the Lord. So, in that, the real Ananda is hidden. So, when that Swarupa will be revealed, then the endless Ananda will be released. That is called as Premananda. So, but if the soul somehow comes in contact with impersonalists, Brahmavadis, then he can also merge in the impersonal aspect of the Lord, Brahman, which is also like the body of the Lord. And he can also get another type of Ananda there, which is Brahmananda, which is uh, not at all comparable to Premananda. Premananda is millions of times more than Brahmananda. But still, Brahmananda is also one type of Ananda. So different types of pleasures are there in this world. So in Martyananda also there are different categories. Material enjoyment, the material enjoyment of hellish planets. There also there is enjoyment. Material enjoyment of lower species of life. Then material enjoyment on Earth planet, which is available to human beings. Material enjoyment in heavenly planets. So their senses are more developed. That kind of enjoyment we cannot imagine also. And our senses also cannot take that. Then then there is the enjoyment of Brahmaloka, which is almost like Vaikuntha planets. There are desire fulfilling trees in Brahmaloka. the Lord himself stays in Brahmaloka in form of Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. And then there is spiritual enjoyment, which is completely different, not material. So different types of enjoyment are available in this creation. Best is Premananda, that is understanding our Swarupa. And so understanding Swarupa is going to happen when Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti comes. But till that time also we can get Premananda in some degree by engaging in Sadhana Bhakti. So it's not that even only after coming to the stage of Bhava Bhakti you will find Premananda. It is already available to us. That is why we are engaging in Sadhana Bhakti. Some drops are available to us. Otherwise, we will not be practicing Bhakti if there was no Ananda. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Thanks. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, if
Yes.
we go to Brahma Jyoti, means if we merge into the Brahma Jyoti, again we will fall down, Prabhuji.
Better not to go into this topic. So there are different opinions, and so we'll not go in that discussion. The fall of Jiva and all that.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams. Thanks for the most wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, my own real experience, I want to get some solution. Like some time back, I came to know that we, the souls, will be happy only in spiritual activities. But I'm not getting that bliss in spiritual activities, and my senses are still getting attracted to material objects. And this itself is causing great misery to me, Prabhu. So, how to come out of it, Prabhu?
So no need to worry. It is not some strange thing. It happens with all the sadhakas. So till the time one comes to the platform of Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, some little attraction here and there is always there. So one need not become disappointed, discouraged because of this. It will be there. So we have to dovetail our attraction to spiritual activities, just like Prabhupada writes in this purport. So for all the senses, there are spiritual activities also, and we try to engage in them as far as possible. Definitely, we have this body, we have to maintain the family, we have the job, so we have to do some material activities also. So slowly and gradually, we should try to shift our consciousness from material activities to spiritual activities. And it is not going to happen uh, instantly. It is going to take some time. So if it is taking some time, we should not become discouraged. It is a natural process. To achieve anything, it will take time. So in this case also, it's going to take some time. So if there are some failures, if there is some fall down, then we should not become discouraged. Again, we stand up and we continue our activity. So we should not have too much of a guilty feeling that, oh my God, I'm not able to do, I'll never able to do it. So we should not be bogged down like that. But just like a sportsman, he when he's practicing, he falls down. He's not able to achieve his aim. He gets up again he tries. So we should go on trying. So sometime after some very quickly we'll get success.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, with your blessings. Thanks, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams.
We have been in this material world since so many lifetimes. We don't know how many. But in just let's say this is our first lifetime of practicing bhakti seriously, then we see that in few years, 5, 10 years, 15 years, there is so much of change. So crores and crores of lifetimes. So very quickly in 5, 10 years, so much change is there. So in one lifetime, we can expect a lot of change. So definitely success will be there, but it will take some time. So you don't have to become very sentimental or You should not develop some guilty feeling that I'm not able to do it. It is there with all the sadhakas. They'll falter, they'll fall down, then again stand up, and again they'll continue on their path. That is that's how any activity in this world is achieved. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams.
Prabhuji, you are telling to read Shloka 6.23 for understanding our real Swarupa.
No, not
It is,
Swarupa. This understanding of what is the meaning of being free from dukkha and how that leads to yoga. Yeah. Of course, Prabhupada writes there something about Swarupa, but so like that.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
We can see the Govardhana, Prabhu.
Govardhan, okay.
Because we had that Govardhana retreat program, no, Prabhu.
Yes.
We all attended.
Oh, today is actually a foggy morning,
Okay, Prabhu.
so maybe you can see the fog. Just a minute. Today is actually the first day when the winter, is showing its color. So it's cold today and it's a foggy morning. And as you can see the so can you see behind you?
Beautiful, Prabhu.
Yeah. It's a foggy morning too. Today first day when the fog is there. So you cannot see actually. It's all foggy. I can maybe the visibility is about 20 feet. These trees. After that you cannot see anything.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhu.
Okay, so we can stop here.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Then.
One question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So you said that misery will not give the bhakti. It's the bhakti that gives bhakti. So yes, Prabhuji, but thing is that like if one is so much miserable, so they will try to look for alternatives or what is the reason for bhakti or this thing, or sorry, reason for his misery. So then he start searching for happiness or this thing, or like searching for the sadhus. So then in that case, like, can we not say that okay, it is the misery that has uh, driven him to the bhakti, or it may not give the bhakti, but it is the one that takes him to the bhakti.
Yes, but it is not true with all the jivas. So the job of Maya Devi is to push the jivas so that they become frustrated. But everybody does not become frustrated. Some always remain happy. So those who become frustrated, they start searching for alternatives, and they attain. They might attain bhakti or yoga or jnana or something. And those who are fortunate, they attain bhakti. So, although this understanding is true that Krishna gives bhakti only when he sees bhakti, he does not give bhakti when he sees suffering. But in certain cases where Krishna shows special mercy, then this is not considered. So there is a discussion or in Sandarbhas that not in Sandarbhas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that in certain incarnations, like when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, he shows a very special type of mercy. So this type of mercy is not seen in general cases. So in this case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, this principle may not work. But in other times, this is the principle that Krishna does not give bhakti by seeing misery. He gives bhakti by bhakti. But in special cases, like when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, then it is a little different case. So that is another whole new discussion. So Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also in Madhurya Kadambani very clearly establishes that bhakti is the cause of bhakti. Misery is not the cause of bhakti. He establishes this in Madhurya Kadambani. But it can be understood that when Krishna gives uh, bhakti in the form of kripa, then this principle may not be applicable there. So it is not a general rule. It is applicable only sometimes, especially when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. So that is understood.
Yes, and subsequent to this is like miseries while in the devotional service. I think it intensifies the devotional service, right, bro?
It intensifies if the person is a devotee.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Well, I have seen that there are some devotees, they are not very nicely practicing devotees. So something happened in their life and they said that, see, we are doing bhakti, but this happened to us. And so they gave up bhakti also. So I have seen such cases also. So it depends on the person. It is not a general rule.
Okay, bro. Thank you, bro. Okay, then we can end the class here, bro, with Vaishnava Pranam.
Right.
Anshakalpatarubhesha Kripasinvidhi Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Anandagoda Vaishnava ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gauranga Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for like very
Right.
like giving the theory, then analyzing, and then scientifically proving it. Thanks all devotees for being attentive. Again, we'll meet tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow there is class in the temple. So it will be live casted from the temple 8 a.m. Please note the time. Hare Krishna.